Well, good morning. Here we are into the month of March, and it is good to have you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good weekend and had a beautiful weekend here. Thankful for that. Good day in church on Sunday, and looking forward to what the Lord has. Pray for Kids Zone tonight. Looking forward to hopefully having a good group there, and so we'll see what the Lord will do with that, but appreciate all who are involved in that. I want to continue to pray Lord would be honored in that as a program. He used that to work in the lives of young people and the opportunities that we have there as well. I want to look into our study here this morning in the book of First John. A lot of uh, questions surrounding some of the background material. John, the Apostle John, I think is the best one to consider as the author of that. People debate that, but I don't think there's any real point in that. When was it written? That's a really good question. And there are, again, a lot of speculations about that. Some put it somewhere in an AD 80, 85 range. Others bump it back before 70. We don't really have a lot of details in the book itself to try to determine that. Also, not sure that some of these things, it's like my faith is not anchored in the date of the letter of First John. So I think some of these things we put into a lot of perspectives. What can we gain out of the text itself? Well, it becomes clear that one of the constant themes of First John is going to deal with the aspect of fellowship, both with the Lord and with each other. And so we're certainly going to be reminded of the reality that sin is going to hinder that, and sin is going to break that fellowship. We're also reminded of the reality throughout that there's a lot of false teachers. A lot of people want to try to say, okay, well, exactly what was that false teaching? Well, I don't think you can necessarily narrow that down. There were a lot of false teachers, and probably there was a lot of false teaching, and it probably had a variety of elements. If you were to try to describe America today and say, okay, well, what is the false teaching? Yeah, okay. It's a lot of things. And I think that's the same here in the letter of First John. And so John is writing this, and he is writing to try to encourage believers. He will bring it out very clearly that we are living in the last days. So that's not something that we're anticipating yet to come in the future. That is something instead that we are actually currently experiencing, and there is a reality to that. There are a lot of implications about that. What does that mean for how I need to live my life, and why am I not liked? These are just part of the questions that are oftentimes asked when it comes to this reality of the last days. And so there's a lot here, and there's a lot of unknown as far as the background to it, but that's okay. We can try to take what we know from the text and try to piece it together as best we can. And when we reach that point where, as far as we can take it, well, that's as far as we can take it, and that's okay. First John chapter 1, though, I do want to look at our text as John begins this very similar to his gospel. And I think there's a lot that is going to be brought out here in this. That which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon, and our hands have handled of the word of life. Let's phrase this a little bit differently at the very beginning and say the one who was from the beginning, because I think that what is going on is that we're not pointing to a thing, we are instead pointing to a person. It's very clear in the original language that that is what is going on, but what John is reminding us is, I think the same as the Gospel of John, from the beginning, I think is going back to Genesis chapter 1, that same concept of reminding us of the eternal Son of God who chose to take on flesh. And yeah, I'm just going to say it is amazing. I think one of the names that is there at Christmas time that we often emphasize, the name of Emmanuel, which means God with us. What an incredible thought that this is. Jesus left the glories of heaven in Philippians chapter number 2 and came down to dwell in this sin-cursed earth among men who are cursed by sin. What a display of grace and love that is on a level that you and I cannot possibly comprehend. And so he reminds us that he has always existed as the eternal Son of God. He did not just merely come in. Now, some want to say, well, I think this is probably a reference to the beginning of the gospel, the beginning of the ministry. I don't think so. I think this goes back further than that, because John is going to say, look, this isn't a new message that we've got. This is a message that is rooted in the person and work of Jesus Christ. And I think that whole statement right here in verse 1 is so foundational to this gospel, or to this letter. I'm going to probably call it a gospel a lot of times, not intentionally, but it is a letter. The point is that he's going back and saying, okay, all of this is rooted in the person of Jesus Christ. And guess what? We experienced this. Our hands have been able to handle. We have heard him. We have seen him with our eyes. So the message that the false teachers come along and say, oh, we got something new. No, this isn't something new. This is something that we go back and this is rooted in the person of Jesus Christ. And John says, I was there. I experienced this. He says in verse 2, for the life was manifested, it was made known, it was revealed, and we have seen it, and bear witness, and testify to it, and show unto you that eternal life which was with the Father and was manifested unto us. All of this language here in these first two verses is with the Father from the beginning. I think all of that is not pointing to the beginning of the gospel, but is pointing back to the eternality of Jesus Christ. He has always existed. And John says, man, I was a part of that. Can you imagine what it would have been like to have walked with Jesus on the earth? And I know they didn't understand it. And I dare say that after he ascended and their understanding increased with the coming of the Holy Spirit, I think they probably had a much different perspective on it than they did when they were in the moment. But can you just imagine what it would have been like seeing these different miracles and the crowds gathering? There's a lot that's there. And John says, okay, we were a part of that. But I am testifying to you about this as well, because there's a sense in which what John is doing is saying, all right, I don't only want to be the one that benefits from this. I want you to see this as well. And I want you to benefit from this. Verse 3, that which we have seen and heard declare we unto you. What we have seen and what we heard, whether what we witnessed via our physical sight, or the message that we heard, the things that we experienced, we are declaring these things unto you. We're announcing these things unto you. And here's the reason: that ye also may have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. Now, these are our believers, and so we're not talking of a potential of a person being able to lose his salvation. But this concept of fellowship is going to be a central theme of the letter of 1 John. There, I said it again. It's going to be a constant theme, and that concept of fellowship. All right, just put it on a simple level. If you know that a relationship between you and someone else is not right, it doesn't mean that it's your fault. We just are saying that it's not right. Then there's a reality about that relationship that the talking, yeah, it's just not there. The camaraderie, the closeness, there's something there. You understand that. Okay, put that on a much greater level, because that is also the reality when it comes to our relationship with God and our fellowship with him. Sin is always going to divide fellowship, whether that is fellowship between people or whether that is fellowship between God. And incidentally, if your fellowship with God is not what it should be, your fellowship with mankind is not going to be what it should be. And so here's this reality that he's pointing to. He says, I want us to have this kind of fellowship. We'll spend much time on that as we go throughout the letter. But there's another reason that he writes in verse number 3. He also acknowledges truly our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. And incidentally, that's the basis of our fellowship, the basis of our unity. It's our relationship with Christ. And these things write we unto you, that your joy may be full. That statement for me stuck out this morning. Sometimes my joy is not very full. Sometimes my joy is lacking. Sometimes my governed more by the spirit of obligation. Our theme this year for our church is liberating joy. And here's what John says. All right, I'm going to write these things for a very specific reason, that your joy may be full, that you may experience this fullness of joy, this joy that has manifested itself in a complete way. That's what needs to characterize us here as believers. And that's what John is writing for. He says, all right, I want us to have a fellowship that is proper, and I want us to have a joy that is full. And so let's take a good look at our lives. Let's evaluate them and see, all right, well, am I in a right relationship with Jesus? Because if I'm not, then my fellowship with him cannot possibly be right. Well, I appreciate each one of you being on here this morning. As always, I hope this has been a help to you. It's kind of felt like a rushed one, but had some introductory comments as well, but wanted to get through that section. So appreciate it. Appreciate you guys being on here. I hope you have a good week again tonight. Looking forward to Kids Zone, and hopefully have a good group with that, and just be in prayer for that. And love to see that program just take off and grow and be a great blessing. So I'd appreciate some prayers for it. And thanks so much for being a part of this morning. Hope you have a good day today. God bless you guys, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.